Hi guys, welcome back to Surrogate Sanctuary. I know it's been a while, but thank you for all the love and support over the past 2 years in my absence. I have been helping couples and surrogates match up still, but not as much as I used to, but I'm trying to get back into that slowly. So today's video is about international couples. Most questions I get often is because I'm a three-time surrogate. My first two couples were from Canada and they were from my area. The first time I lived up north, and it was harder to get to appointments. I would have to sit there and make sure that my schedule met up with my intended parents. I was lucky that my children were young at the time. Michael was only 5 months and Jenner was around 1.5, about that. So it was easier for me to have someone sit with my kids and not have to worry about going to pick them up from school or pick them up from daycare. I was able to go to my appointments. I try to get there as early as possible because of the traffic. And I would get there and have my intended parents sit with me because obviously they want to know everything that's going on with their child. My first two couples came to every single appointment, OB, the clinic, everything. And I was really happy about that because it's support and it gives me someone to talk to while I'm waiting at the clinic. But when I found with my third journey is that obviously that my parents were from overseas, that I would just text them, okay, I'm on my way to the clinic. I would text them when I got to the clinic. Maybe for some that's over information, oversharing, it's, maybe just let them know what happened at the appointment. With me, I just wanted to let them know where I was, what was going on, what I had finished up, what I was like when you get to the clinic, first thing you sign up for is your blood work, to sign up for your ultrasound and sign up to see the doctor. The quicker you get those done, you get to see the doctor. He reviews your results with you. And when you're waiting on someone else's schedule, they might have to sit there and take a morning meeting and then come meet with you at the clinic. So having international parents, it was easier for me just to sit there and text them. This is where I have done, it's like 8:30 in the morning. I would go out for a coffee after I'd done my blood work and my ultrasound. If I was allowed to eat, if I didn't have to do anything that was required fasting, like blood work, I would go and I would wait for the doctor. So I would go run out, grab a coffee and come back. And then I'd be like one of the first 5 people to see him because you have appointments booking constantly. So someone may have booked an appointment before I have. Even though I was the first one to sign up at the sheet, the doctor may have already booked an appointment for the very first couple or surrogate or someone to get a checkup before I signed up on the sheet. So I was usually out of there by 9:30. I was like in and out quickly so I could get back to my kids, get back to work, get back to everything that I needed to get done in that day. So for me, the third journey, the international parents, was a no-brainer. I knew what I was doing. By then I had amazing support. My intended parents are amazing. I'm very lucky and blessed to have them. They're still in my life and their daughter is now 5 years old. So I'm very lucky that I have such an amazing, supportive intended parents, and my one couple from Canada. The first couple I don't really talk to at all. But I'm very blessed with that. That with me, I'm very independent. Once you show me how to do something, and I'm very comfortable with doing what I'm doing, I'm able to do it on my own. I just like to run with the ball and just get there. And when I would come home, we would schedule video chats. So they would just check up on me, ask me to send them pictures of the baby bump. Ultrasounds I would send immediately as soon as the ultrasound was done. They usually give us photos, so I kept all those for them when they came back to Canada, and I would take a picture and I would send it to them so they could see. It's way different because they're not there to ask the doctor question. Obviously, the doctor does update them via email or he would schedule, but it was kind of harder because, like I said, my parents are from overseas, so they're about 6 hours to 7 hours ahead of us. So for the doctor, they get in at 9 o'clock, it's already 4 o'clock in their time. So sometimes it's harder to coordinate with that, but they would coordinate with, like talk and review everything over email. So with me, it was kind of, well, I wasn't lonely because I wanted to get back to my kids, truthfully. Like, I liked the fact that I was one of the first people there in the morning at the clinic to get everything done. At the OB, same thing. be the first one in there so I can get back to my kids, get back to everything that I had to do. A lot of surrogates are very busy with their own families and their own lives, so having international parents makes it easier in that way, that you don't have to worry about scheduling with someone else. You don't have to worry that your schedules will conflict. Especially when my son started in kindergarten, it was harder because he started school at 1 in the afternoon and he would go till 3. So I had to make sure that I was able to get back in time. And sometimes it didn't work out. Thank God he was in kindergarten, but sometimes I didn't get back in time, and I would call the school and they're saying, what's the point? He only has an hour left of school. Don't worry about it. But I would let them know. So again, having international parents, you're able to schedule your life better because you don't have to worry that it's going to conflict with theirs. Another question I get a lot from international couples is, what should they be looking for in a surrogate? Me personally, I would want someone that is experienced or has a very good support system to walk them through, because sometimes as a first-time surrogate, it does get overwhelming because you don't know everything. And if you don't have that support system, or you don't have someone that has carried before to be in your corner to say, okay, this is what you should expect. This is what is expected of you. This is what you need to keep organized. This is how you have to keep your parents in the loop. It can get lonely. If some surrogate ladies actually join each other at appointments to be a support system if they live in the same area, or they'll sit there and say, my appointment is on this day since we're at the same clinic, or maybe the same OB. Maybe we can coordinate so that our appointments are at the same time, so I can sit there and walk you through everything so you don't feel so overwhelmed. And it's great to have that support system if someone is able to come with you. Some agencies, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that because the laws have changed, or consultants will join you at appointments, especially if you're new to the surrogate world and you're not sure or familiar with the steps or feel comfortable yet going on your own. They will join you at appointments. I know for a lot, they will join you at the transfer, which is the transfer of the embryo into the surrogate's womb, unless she's a traditional surrogate and she's actually using her own eggs, which is totally amazing. I really have a lot of respect for those ladies, surrogate egg donors and traditional surrogates. That they are truly angels. Like, that is just going above and beyond. Like, I know being a surrogate is amazing, but being a traditional surrogate is something I will always be in awe of. I just have so much respect for those ladies and the egg donors. I would also recommend to international couples that if you are going with a surrogate that has carried before, well, any intended parent, that you ask for references. Ask for their previous couple or couples, as in my state, where every time I carried, I would contact my previous intended parents and say, listen, I'm ready to carry again. Obviously, they have a newborn. They're recovering from all the expenses from their journey. They're probably not going to be ready to carry again. If they are, that's amazing. Some people are. They plan, if they don't carry twins, because I know now that they will only transfer one embryo at a time at some clinics. I know that's not true, like in the US, they still will transfer two, but most will only, in Canada that I know of, will only transfer one now because of the high risk pregnancy. So if twins do happen, then, amazing, asalu, but they will no longer be transferring 2 to 3 embryos at a time. But for surrogates, if you are talking with an international couple and they had a surrogate before, ask them, am I able to talk with your surrogate and just ask how their journey was? You don't have to be like super personal, because you don't know if that person's going to go back and tell them everything you said. So you got to be kind of careful with that, what you say, because you don't want to spook off someone, especially if you connected amazingly with them. But surrogates as well, you can ask if they've carried before. May I speak to your previous surrogate? And just, see, you might be a new best friend. You never know. They could talk about their journey and what clinics they went to, especially if they're in the same country as you that they're carrying at, or maybe even the same area. Then they can go to the same clinic. Most times they do, because they have embryos at their clinic and they prefer to use that clinic again. Just that way you don't risk the transfer of embryos to a new clinic and you lose. It does happen. every time you defrost so many embryos, you run the risk of losing so many in the defrost and in the transfer process. So that's why most parents want to keep everything at the same clinic. So if you're a surrogate caring for a couple and they've had a surrogate before, maybe it might be a good idea just to, connect with her and see how her journey was and how the clinic is. It's not just about the intended parents, it's the clinic as well. How did they treat you? Is there anything that I should be wary of? Maybe even know the process, because some clinics are different than others. You can ask them what regiment did you have for medications? What happened on just at a regular appointment? Have basically a walkthrough. So it's really important to have communication. So if you are a first-time surrogate, or if you are a surrogate caring for an international couple, or vice versa, communicate. Talk to their previous surrogates. Talk to their previous intended parents. It's always good to have more information than be in shock later down the road. What made me fall in love with my intended parents from overseas was we were meeting for the first time, video chat, and they wanted to meet my kids, which I thought was amazing. Usually the first chat you talk about what their expectations are, like what do they like contract wise, are you gonna still be in contact with each other after the journey? That does change, because my first parents I don't even talk to. Things changed after the birth of the babies, which is fine. Like, everybody is entitled to, it's their family. I'm not going to tell them or judge them for whatever reason, but I don't talk to my first couple. But my second and third couples I talk to all the time, and we're amazing friends, and I consider them family. Like I consider them my brothers. I consider their children's my niece and nephews. Like, I'm very lucky with them. But you could talk about contracts, but what made me fall in love with them is that they were showing me their animals, and I just fell in love with the fact how much in love they were with their dog. I know it sounds kind of stupid, but you can always tell about a person's character, how they interact with dogs and how they interact with children. They also had birds, and they were babies, and they were bottle feeding them. The fact that they had that much patience to bottle feed these parrots and allow them to grow and get bigger and bigger, I was just, that for me made me fall in love with them. I was just like, that's amazing that you have that kind of patience to take it upon yourself to take these animals into your home and love them so much that you bottle feed them every single day. They were on a schedule. So it's like they had their own babies already. It's like they had twins. But I just was like that. I just fell in love. As soon as I saw that, and they were showing me they were really excited. They were showing me their animals, and I just thought it was amazing. And that made me fall in love with them instantly. And obviously when I met them for the first time in Toronto, the way they interacted with each other, I just loved the way that they always picked on each other and joked around and stuff. That was really amazing. At the birth, just the way that it was just amazing. Like, I'm gonna cry. But the way that they interacted with each other when their child was born, I was just like, wow. I'm very grateful that I chose them. We actually ended up going independent. Some things happened with who helped us match, and we decided to go alone, and I was fine with that because I had carried twice before, and my second journey, something, I don't know, I didn't get into it, but something happened, and they said we'll just basically carry on as if they were part of our journey still, except instead of going through them, you'll just talk directly to me. And it didn't make me feel uncomfortable because I love them and respect them, and I didn't want that to change our relationship coming down to the nitty-gritty. And I'm sure a lot of surrogates will feel that way, like you feel awkward asking for the paperwork and stuff like that. Like, that's why I felt comfortable working with the person that I did, and the fact that they matched me with 3 amazing parents. I will, obviously, I'm not going to mention any names because I don't want to get in trouble. If they reach out to me and say it's okay that I mention them, then I will. But all three parents I met through them. I did try going on my own on different surrogate websites, and that's actually how I did find who I ended up working with, matching with parents. The agency that I ended up working with, or consultants, I don't know what they're called anymore, because as many know that the Reproductive Act has changed, and they said you can no longer use third parties in your surrogate journey. So I'll have to talk to my intended parents about that. But the websites that I did use, one closed down. It was a lot like, I don't know, I'm dating myself here, but back in the day, Yahoo used to have group chats where you can join a group and then, just, talk with people, interact with people. It was a lot like that. But unfortunately, scammers took advantage of a lot of people, and the lady that ran the site, that was the founder, just had it and was just said, forget it. She shut the whole thing down. But I did enjoy there. I did meet some parents on my own, and it was just, they were hurt and they had bad experiences, most of them, I will say. And one did actually carry before, and they had a very bad experience. They weren't even allowed in the delivery room with their first child was born. And you could sense that she was guarded, which I don't blame her. And I felt that what happened to her, obviously I felt she was taking it on me, and I told her I couldn't proceed with her. So I don't know how you would match now if you were going to go through a consultant. I don't want to say anything, misspeak. I don't want to sit there and say, go here, go there. But there are some sites, if you're looking for where you can post an ad on some of these sites. Surrogate Finder is one. There's a couple others. DM me, or, because I know a lot of people don't want to leave questions on the actual videos because they're afraid of their identity being posted, or I will never do that. If you want to post a question to me in DMs, I will, if I screenshot it, I'll just screenshot the question. I won't screenshot your name, or I'll just read the question out like I did before. So don't worry, we will never say your identity. But yeah, if you want surrogate, even if you go in, there's some amazing surrogate groups on Facebook, believe it or not. And you can sit there and look surrogate support group for Canada, for America. I know there's some in the UK, in Britain. It's more taboo over there, overseas. So you're probably better off joining a Canadian group or a US group, and just explain to the admins that, this is where you're from. You're just looking for information. Maybe you could, make friends with another intended parent or another surrogate, because you just want to learn what the rules are, and lawyers, clinics, stuff like that. So there are a lot of amazing groups on Facebook, I know that, but I'll have to look into to the websites again. I know Surrogate Finder is still open because I do have ads on there, but I'm retired now as a surrogate, but I do, like I said, help out other couples and other surrogates. I don't charge any fees. I take donations, but that's about it. I don't charge a fee or anything, and I do the videos, so try to help as much people as possible. To having international parents is that you do run the risk of going into labor early and them not be there. I was really scared when my couple said they were going to arrive the day before the birth, and I was like, what happens? I was having a scheduled C-section, but I'm like, I've had 3 vaginal births, and what happens if my water breaks? Because this was my 4th surrogate child, and I swear, it was walking around like with a bowling ball hanging out of you sometimes, and I was just like, I could go at any moment. And I remember them telling me I was 3 centimeters dilated when I went in to have my C-section. I was like, wow. Like, I could feel the pressure, but my water hadn't broken, and my water doesn't break, actually. My water only broke with my second son, and that was because the placenta ruptured, because my first son actually had butted my stomach. So I think he tore my placenta and caused me to go into early labor. But besides that, I've always had my water broken, and it was just crazy to think that I was 3 centimeters dilated when I went in for my C-section. But I was worried that they wouldn't make it on time, but they did. They were really amazing. But their second child with their other surrogate, she actually gave birth before they had the chance to get there. But they got there the next day, so it wasn't so bad. Or they left early in the morning and got here like 3 in the morning, so it wasn't so bad. But they weren't there for the birth of their second child. So that is something that it is a con, but it's like you can't help it. Like, it's just Mother Nature. No one knows. They can predict, they could schedule, but when the baby's ready to come, the baby's ready to come, and your body knows what it's going to do. So that's the only bad thing. But if you talk to your intended parents saying, like, can I have a support person in the delivery room? I know some hospitals will allow 3, some will only allow 2, some will only allow 1. The other con is that if you do go with international parents, that they won't be at all the appointments. If you're looking for someone that's going to be at all your appointments with you, then international couples aren't for you. If you want someone to be at every appointment, be very involved, then go with someone like that's in your city or someone that's in your state or your province. So that way you have that intimacy that you're looking for. But that's something I would discuss on your first encounter with any intended parent or surrogate. If you're looking for that personal, intimate relationship. And intimate, I mean, like, be at every appointment, allowed in the room. Because I remember, like I was saying, that one intended mom wasn't even allowed in the room when the surrogate was getting ultrasounds or anything done. So these are things you should discuss, like, first meeting. That way you know everything is transparent, you know everything. So you don't sit there and get invested in the surrogate or get invested in the intended parents, and then it turns out to be something that you didn't expect because you didn't ask at the first meeting. But things, like I said, do change down the road. I did expect that me and my first couple would be friends for life, like with my other 2 couples, but unfortunately something changed, and that's fine. But it's my first couple, and I wish I could talk to them because their children are very close in age to mine. So they had twins, but I do miss them. But it is what it is. I'm just going to touch briefly what to put in contracts, because I know some people are like, I don't stay on the topic of the video, and I apologize for that. But with contracts, I would sit there, if you want them to give birth in your city, and this is something you discuss on the first meeting up, that would you be willing to deliver in our city, that they have a valid passport, they have everything ready. But that's something you need to discuss on the first meeting. I wouldn't sit there and spring that on your surrogate, while she's like 28 weeks pregnant, and then all of a sudden, we want you to give birth in our city. It's impossible. Some will ask you, intended parents will ask, like I said, they'll have previously carried, and will ask you to go to their OB of choice. And sometimes it's not so convenient. And I say that because you may not live near your intended parents. Like, you may be in the same city, but doesn't mean that you're in the same area. My first 2 couples lived in downtown Toronto, so it would have taken me 45 minutes, second journey, and probably an hour and a bit. The first time, they were really understanding, and they went to where was close to my area. My first couple, we were up north, so we were in Newmarket, so we ended up going to South Lake, and that's where both my children were born. And my second couple, we had moved to North York, which was more convenient for our jobs and more convenient for going to clinics. I could get everywhere quicker. We gave birth at North York General, and that's where we gave birth to the international parents' daughter, was at North York as well, because it was, like I said, it was more convenient, quicker for me to get to the hospital than to, just like I said, your body's knows when it's ready to give birth. So it was easier for me to sit there and go to my local hospital than rather travel to their local hospital, because, like I said, it'll take 45 minutes to get there, and it would just be, I think it adds a little more stress, especially when the bigger you get, the harder it is to walk, and it's harder on your legs. You get tired easier. So when you are that pregnant, it's just because you have to start going to the hospital or not the hospital, beg your pardon, you have to go to your OB once a week rather than once a month near your when you reach 35 weeks, or if you have a high risk pregnancy sooner. I'm going to talk briefly about contracts and what to put in your contract. If you are an international couple, I would sit there and I doubt you would ask your surrogate to give birth in your city, but I've had some people approach me and said, "Do you think she would agree with this?" And to me, I would strongly suggest no, because if your surrogate gives birth, or there's an emergency, she's not going to fly to where you are to deal with the emergency. She has to deal with the emergency what's closer to her. Some parents need to realize that the further you get along in your pregnancy, the harder it is on your body. I know with my last pregnancy, she was 10 pounds, and it felt, honestly, I thought she was going to fall out at any given moment. When you're going to your doctors every single week, you don't know. Like I said, I was 3 centimeters dilated at birth when I had my C-section. So that's why I'm saying, I understand that some have been through issues before and you want to be part of everything because you missed out the first time, if that is the case. But try to understand your surrogate's point of view as well, that she's carrying your child. She's keeping your child safe, and you want to keep her safe because she's keeping your child safe. You know, you want her to go to the local hospital that's convenient for her. I understand if you guys talked about that and you asked them to go to your area, because like I said, my second couple was about 45 minutes, give or take, because we lived in Toronto, traffic is horrible. So give or take, if I was 3 centimeters dilated, my water broke, and I would have to travel 45 minutes to get to their hospital of choice, who knows what happened. And you're putting your baby at risk. Like, always think about that. Like, would this put my child at risk? If you I hate to say this because not everyone is like this, but if you've been burned, sit down and, realize that your surrogate is what's keeping your child safe and growing your child safe. So I try to put those feelings aside, and I hope and pray that the second or third journey that you're on is able to give you the experience that you want. But you have to put those feelings aside and maybe take time off from care. I know everybody wants to have their children close in age and stuff, but if you are, I guess, post-traumatic stress disorder, being traumatized from your first journey, maybe talk to somebody about it, a therapist or someone, or a close friend, or maybe your consultant. Some of them are really understanding. Some of them actually go above and beyond and listen to everything, which I think everyone should do. If you're going to help out people, then you have to be willing to be their therapist as well. Listen to their issues. And I know that everybody, especially if you're a consultant, you have to look out for the surrogate's best interest, and you got to look out for the intended parent's best interest, and you're put in the middle, but maybe hear them out. And I know it's harder that way because obviously you don't want to jeopardize the relationship between the surrogate and the intended parent. So maybe that's why I don't know, sometimes it's harder to talk to people, but if they don't have a support system, they are going to come to you. And you have to be prepared for that. If you are in my shoes where you help out intended parents and surrogates meet up, because like I said, I don't charge fees. I only do through donations and support, but that because with the new act as well, you don't want to get in trouble if you do that. So just be mindful of that surrogates and intended parents, that or look it up yourself. Go on servicecanada.ca. They will sit there, look under the Reproductive Act, and it will say that having third-party help now is illegal in Canada. So just be mindful of that, because some lawyers will mention that to you. So make sure that you have all your ducks in a row before you start. On the new age that we're in with social media, I was a part of a many group talking about for support and just somewhere to chit chat, see how relate to other surrogates, see how their journeys were going, and just be a support system. And we would update each other. This is how our appointment went, but we wouldn't reveal critical information or anything, like what our parents' names were or anything like that, but just like, my appointment went great. My next appointment is on this date. Stuff like that. The due date is this date. Just so like, do you feel like a community? But with social media being what it is, I have this. I came into an issue with a intended parent recently about their surrogate sharing too much. Well, you got to put that in your contract. You got to talk about that the first. Some of them are just like, well, it's common sense. Well, okay, it's common sense, but some people want support. Some people, don't have the support from family members, and I know that's sad to say, but some people, like, I know someone that was in my family thought that I was being a surrogate was wrong because they felt that I was giving away my children. And I explained to them, and I had to do it 3 or 4 times, explaining to them that it was not my child. And I had to go into the terminologies with the embryos and actually break it all down with eggs and how the donation of the sperm and everything in the clinic works and what part they play, and explain everything to them. And 3 times, 4 times I had explained to them. Sometimes I still explain it to them, and I haven't been a surrogate in 5 years. So I have to explain to them that these are not your family members out in the world that you never met or you will never meet. Well, maybe you might, but you never know. But sometimes you have to explain it's good to have support, is what I'm saying. With social, just sit there. If you don't want them posting on Instagram or Facebook pictures of their stomachs on their feed or posting about their journey on their open feed to the public, then mention it to them. Write it in the contract, because you have to abide by that contract. So just mention these things to them. Touching briefly on with intended parent, international parents with these journeys, please try be understanding with surrogates that you have to keep them in your intended parent in the loop. I know it. Sometimes you're tired from your appointment, and the last thing you want to do is do a Skype call or something. So just tell them, I'm a little tired. I'm texting you right now. Just let me have a nap, and we can, touch base tomorrow or on the weekend. But that's what I'm saying. Just try to keep them more in the loop. I did have a lot of that where the intended parent would message me and say, I haven't heard from them in a week, and we had an appointment this day and I didn't hear anything. And I would have to sit there and reach out to the surrogate, and then things didn't work out. And then the surrogate turned around and said, well, Jennifer was up my butt. She was messaging me every day. And I'm like, if you messaged your intended parent when you were supposed to, I wouldn't have to bother you. I'm not here to bother people. Either are people that help out, other consultants that help out parents and surrogates match up and along their journey. They're not there to annoy you. They're not there to bother you. They're there to keep the intended parents up to date, so they know what's going on with their child, what's going on with their journey. Information is power. So to sit there and not talk to your intended parent for a week and you had an appointment is kind of bizarre to me. I don't understand that. But, even once a week, maybe twice a month, I don't know. Just let them know how you're doing. Do you have morning sickness? Are your legs swollen? Have you gained any weight? Just, they just want to be a part of the journey. I hope that a lot of people are able to get that bond. Some surrogates are guarded because they don't want to sit there. Like myself, I will admit I was guarded with my 2 couples after my first couple, because I was like, I didn't get to say goodbye to the babies after they were born. I was just basically like, yep, thank you very much, and I left. And that really burnt me, and I just said, I will guard myself and I will try not to get attached this time. So, because with my first parents, they met my family, they met my partner, they met my in-laws, they met everyone. So they were very much, integrated into our family. And I assumed, which is probably my mistake, that that relationship would bloom and grow as, after the babies were born, because the way that we were together before the babies were there. And maybe the birth of the children changed that fact. Maybe they were guarded. Maybe they thought that I would feel some sort of way. But you know, I respected who they were as parents, and I gave them their space and tried to do everything that I would want personally as a parent. Like, I did not hold anyone's children. I did not, like, I would ask the parents after the first experience if the baby is born early, just so I knew, so I didn't step over any boundaries. If the baby is born early, do you want me to take care of your child until you get there, or do you want the nurses and the doctors to take care of the baby until you reach the hospital? And they were like, no, we want you, we trust you. You know, you bottle feed, change diapers, do whatever you need to do. I know some surrogates held the babies, which is totally fine. Just me, I was guarded. Don't think that, you know, if your surrogate holds the baby, they feel some sort of way. They just want to see, you know, what they did. Everything is perfect, because you have that concern. Because when the baby is born, they're whisked away, they're all wrapped up and everything, and the first thing you do is skin to skin with the parents. So with me, that was important, because I know how I felt when my children were born, and my second child I wasn't able to hold because he ended up being in the NICU. And my first surrogate twins, which was my first journey, ended up being in the NICU. So I was really concerned, because I was just like, I hope this is not going to be like my son Michael, where he was on, he had a feeding tube, he was on oxygen, he was in an incubator, like he was in there for 14 days. So for me, I was scared, and I just was checking up on them, and maybe, I guess, they saw that as I overstepped the boundaries by checking in on them, but their parents were there. It's not like I went when they were there, like they weren't knowledgeable. I just wanted to say hi, how are you guys doing? You know, how are your children? And they were like, oh, everything's fine. And I was just like, okay, got the message received, and I left, and I never went back in the NICU. I just was checking on them. Like I said, after what we had gone through, the journey, me being pregnant and everything, I just assumed that love would still be there after the babies were born. But like I said, sometimes, you know, things change, and you have to, as parents, as surrogates, you have to be prepared for that things may change. Even though the contract says, I promise you this, by the sun, the moon, and the stars, that we will still be friends, things change. I've heard this many a time of surrogates being so heartbroken that they expected to have an amazing relationship with their intended parents afterwards, and you know, they didn't even get to say goodbye, like myself. And I'm like, I guess it just happens, and we have to learn to accept it and just move forward. And I guess that's just part of the journey with some. Another question I got is that because the baby was born in a different country than them, does the surrogate go on the birth certificate? With me, with my one journey that I did, no. The lawyer took care of everything. It was just like the first two journeys. You sit there, you sign your rights away, saying that you are not responsible for the financial responsibilities of raising this child, that you sign all your rights away, that you do not see yourself as a parent, and basically that you understand that from this day forth that everything falls on your intended parents. So no, your name does not go on the birth certificate or anything. When the baby is first born, some hospitals, just because that's the way they do things, your name might be on it. But after that, when the actual birth certificate and the passport and legal papers get drawn up, your name won't be there anymore. That's just with the hospitals. That's just legality, and just to make sure that everyone's safe. Like, you're the patient. The surrogate is the patient. So when you give birth, they do put a bracelet on you, but that doesn't mean that they see you as the mom. They understand. But I just want to briefly touch on that, is when I would recommend like 35 weeks, reach out to the hospital you're giving birth at and just say, can I set up a meeting with the social worker that is at the hospital, and explain to them that you're a surrogate and that your intended parents are having a child at the hospital, and you just want to make sure that everything is ready for that day. With North York General, we met them 35 weeks or a little later than 36 weeks, and they had all the labels, made sure that they had my intended parents' names on it. Everyone that was going to be on staff, like I said, you might give birth early and stuff happens. They may be able to give time to be organized, but they made sure that everyone at the hospital understood that once I gave birth and the child was cleaned off, that the baby was to go to the intended parents. I would look over, like, because I had a C-section, so I would look over and see them, and I'd cry, and I was so happy for them, seeing them bond and, you know, being reunited as a family at last, and it was just amazing. But I did let my intended parents, both of them, North York General is really good with that. They allowed, they asked if I wanted a support person. I said, no, my support person is going to be at home watching my kids. I want to make sure that both of them are there for the birth, and they were. I said, like, because I said some hospitals will only allow one now, I've learned. So I want to make sure, this is me, and every surrogate is entitled to have a support person, because it is scary having a C-section. It is scary giving birth. So not to say that if a surrogate sits there and says, listen, I want to have my husband, I want to have my mom, I want to have my best friend in the room when I give birth, is not a personal attack on the intended parent or something against the intended parent. It's just, again, this is something you just should discuss first meeting. This is just something they, you know, anxiety kicks in, your worries kick in, and it's just, it has nothing to do with the intended parent. It's just, you want to make sure that the surrogate is as comfortable as possible, and if they feel comfortable with that, just explain that to the hospital. Say they need their support person, be it their mom, partner, whoever. Is it okay if one of us at least be in the room? Like, we could stand off in the corner out of the way. And that's what all the couples did. My first journey, I actually had a vaginal birth and a emergency C-section, because the second one got stuck on the placenta, so he was not able to come out. They kept trying to grab his foot, but he kept pulling back, so they couldn't get him out. And they had to do an emergency C-section because they saw blood, but it was just the placenta. But thank God. And so my one intended parent helped me push. Like, when I would push, I told him, when I push, help me lean up so I can bear down more. And his first son was born. So that's why I was saying, like, if you're able to be a part of the experience, it's amazing. And I hope that for everybody out there. But again, if the surrogate needs her support person, let her have her support person. So I hope that helps. Basically, with international couples, it is, if you have carried before and you know the ins and outs and you don't need anyone to hold your hand, it is easy. You go in, you live your life, you do make appointments on your own time. And as long as you're organized and you can keep them up to date, it's the most amazing, easy experience you'll ever have. I cannot rave enough how much I love my intended parents. I actually helped them search for someone to help them for their second journey, because I had gestational diabetes with my third surrogate journey, which was my fourth surrogate baby. And they were afraid that I might have a placenta accreta, where the placenta actually gets attached to, because I had C-section, they were afraid that the placenta attached to my C-section scar on the inside, and if they cut open, that I would, you know, hypothetically, if it did go the wrong way, I would hemorrhage or bleed out, or God forbid. So that's why I say, like, just be very mindful of things. But that if you have any questions and you don't want to comment below, that's fine. Just DM me your questions, and I will answer them on the next video. Also, what do you guys want to talk about? I think I should talk about review contracts again. I think, like you can tell from this video, I go off topic a lot, but it's so much information inside sometimes that I don't know what to say and what not to say. If you are looking to maybe set up just to talk on the phone, because there are some things I didn't touch on, and I apologize for that, but if you want to contact me, feel free. Go on my Surrogate Sanctuary Facebook page. My phone number is there. I answer within the day, sometimes even sooner, just depending on how busy I am. But feel free to reach out, and I will gladly sit down and answer any questions you have, or concerns, or lawyers and whatnot. I don't want to mention anyone on the videos. I just don't want to get in trouble with anyone. I'll try and reach out to some people and see if it'll be okay, because a lot of them do know that, if you do not know, you're new to this page, that my partner did pass away 2 years ago. So I took a break from videos and everything else. So I apologize for the simpatico there, but you know, I had to take care of myself and I had to take care of my kids at that time. And I think that's, you know, obviously a lot of you understand family comes first. So I just want to briefly say that all this information is based on my personal experience. I am not a lawyer. I'm not a consultant, like a business consultant. I'm just basically, all my knowledge and experience is what I share with people, and everyone understands that. I just want to put this in the video. Please contact your lawyer about any legal questions. I also want to reach out to my intended parents and see if any of them, seeing how well this video goes, maybe I'll open an Instagram and we could do a live Instagram, and I can have them come on, and because we don't live in the same province anymore, so that'd be a little hard to film together, but I will sit there and see if they can actually do a live Skype chat, and not Skype, beg your pardon, Instagram live. And that way you guys can ask parents or ask them as parents how their journey was through their feet, because I don't know that experience. I only know through my experience. So maybe they'll help out, and I can try and get my international couple to come on. They just had a newborn baby. She's 3 months now. So I don't want to bother them until, you know, they've got the routine down and everything. So I'll reach out to my Toronto couple and see if they want to do that, depending how well this goes. As well, again, if you do have questions that you don't want posted, no worries. We don't identify anyone. Like, I'm just reading off. I write them down and I read them off. I don't put anyone's identity out there or anything. Again, if you feel that this wasn't enough information, please feel free to go on. I'm going to link it in the description box to my Facebook page, and feel free. My contact information is on there, and I will gladly help you out any way I can. And again, this is from my personal experience. I am not a lawyer, so if you have any questions for your lawyer, please contact them. I don't want to speak on something that's in your country or in your state or your province, because again, everything is different. So please contact your lawyer for that information. And thank you for the support, and any of you that want to continue help support Surrogate Sanctuary, I'm going to link my PayPal down below, and feel free to help us out and keep this going. And thank you to everyone that has supported me over the past 2 years, and I really appreciate it. It really means a lot to me, and that's why I felt I should come back and start doing the videos again, so that I'm at the point of my grief journey that I can come on here and again help out more people, and could start helping out more couples and surrogates match up. So all the best, and we'll see you next video. If you have any video ideas or anything you want me to talk about, please let me know. And depending how well this video goes, and in the future, we'll see. I might do an Instagram and then try and get some intended parents on. Or if you're intended parents and surrogates and want to join the chat and speak of your experience, I will gladly do that. So reach out to me in DMs and let me know. Bye.